Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Surely to Allah we belong and to Him we shall return. Aziz, there's a hadith from the Holy Prophet. He says about Mawla Ali, he says that me and you are the fathers of this nation. Yani, one time you have Nubuwwat is the father of nation, Imamat is the fatherhood of nation. Today we become yatim again. Today is the day where we lose Abu Abdullah. Today is the day where you can hear the screams of Zainab and Sukaina. And this is that day, Azizan. It's finally arrived, the day of Ashoora, where Hussein stands alone in Karbala. This is Abu Abdullah. Do you know, Azizan, what the narrations talk about? They say that the time in Karbala, Imam al-Hussein, he starts to go to Zainab. He says to Zainab, Al-Umm says, get me some old clothes. Why, oh Hussein? He says, maybe after that they see these old clothes, they won't leave my body without any clothes. Oh, Madlum Hussein, you understand that this is how low these people are. It is said that even after taking these old clothes, he would rip them, he would rip the shirt, he would rip the trousers, that maybe they would look at these and they have no value. It is said at that point he starts to wear these clothes. He goes out towards the enemy camp. He goes and he talks to them. He says, Hal min nasirin ya ansurna. He says, is there anyone to come and help me? Azizan, at that point, it is said at that point in the old clothes that he wears, he comes back to the camp because the ladies start crying. Oh, why are they crying? They see the 6-month-old of Imam al-Hussein. Abu Abdullah's already made his mind, he knows he's going to go for Shahada. But look at Ali al-Asghar. It is said that when the mother asks, she says, go bring him some water. Azizan, you know what happens to Abu Abdullah. He goes, he takes this baby, but he doesn't come back with the baby alive. And this is Abu Abdullah when he comes back. He comes back to the camp, and Bibi Zainab starts to cry, and she starts to weep. It is said at that point, every woman that is attached to Imam al-Hussein, they come and they circulate him. As they circulate him, it is said that they see this affection between Zainab and Hussein, and it's very ajib. It is said they cry so much that they become unconscious on the sands of Karbala. You know, a time comes when they wake up. It is said Imam al-Hussein, he gets on his horse. Zainab says, wait a moment. Why? He says, I remember the will of my mother Fatima Zahra. What's the will of Zainab? He says, come closer to me. As Imam al-Hussein comes closer, she says, lean forward. He leans forward. Sometimes she kisses the lips, sometimes she kisses the neck, sometimes she kisses the chest. Oh, Ahmad Hussein, and these are the kisses given to you from Fatima to Zahra. You know, there comes a time where Imam Hussein says, I also remember a will, and that will is that of my father and Murtada. Wow, Husaina, what is that will? She said, bring your hands closer, oh my sister. He starts to kiss her on her hands. You know, as he kisses on her, she asks why. You know, Aziz, and they say from here is where they tied Zainab. Oh, Madlum. Abu Abdullah starts to cry, he weeps even more. He goes out towards the enemy camp. As he comes out, he starts to go and he starts to fight. He attacks the right side of the flank. He says that death is better, death with honor is better than a life of humiliation. He says that death on the deen of Rasulullah is better than death on Jahiliyyah. He starts to go, you know, that he attacks many of the enemies. They become shocked with the battle of Imam al-Hussein. It is said at that point, Imam al-Hussein attacks them so bad that they reach even the Kufa gates. This is Abu Abdullah. A time comes in Karbala where Abu Abdullah attacks the left flank. He starts to say, I am Hussein, son of Ali. I am the last surviving son of Rasulullah. And this is what he says to them. He's trying to remind them of who he is. Look at the enemies. They advance. They're trying to attack. Those that have javelins trying to attack with javelins. Those that have spears trying to attack him with spears. But this is the son of Ali al-Murtada. It is said that eventually the attack is so fierce that they start to run back. One of the enemies of Allah, he narrates, I've never seen a man who loses everything in the way of Allah, but still when he comes out, he comes like a shining lion. And this lion so fierce that no one wants to come forward to attack him. You know, at that point what happens? It is said that the enemies of Allah realize that this is Hussein, we can't defeat him normally. And you know what they do? And they start to go towards the camp and they threaten to attack the camp. Imam al-Hussein says, oh enemies of Allah, have some shame. Your jang is with me, your battle is with me, keep it with me. Shima bin Zul-Jawshan, la'natullah alayhi, says, what are you saying, O son of Fatima Zahra? He says, while I'm alive, attack me, don't attack my women. Allah Hussein. It is said that they honor this though. And so when Imam Hussein carries on attacking, eventually, how long did the thirsty man survive in Karbala? Bear in mind, he's picking up body after body after body. Eventually, Abu Abdullah becomes tired. He starts to march. As he goes, he says, look at me, O Abbas. When you were fighting, I was supporting you. He says, when I fight Abbas, will you not answer me? Will you not call out and watch me? He calls out to Ali al-Akbar. He says, oh my son, when you went, I was there for you. Will you not come watch my jang? Will you not watch me fight? You know, it is said that Imam al-Hussein fights through the enemy camp. He passed them like the Red Sea. He enters the Euphrates. As he enters the Euphrates, Azizan, do you know what happens? He starts to look around. He's very thirsty. You know, before he drinks, do you know who he cares about? He says, oh Zuljana, oh there you've been lifting bodies with me. I know you're thirsty too. And this is the way of Abu Abdullah. You know what would happen? He would go and he would tell his horse, oh horse, kneel down, you drink until you are satisfied, and then I will follow you. It is said that after the horse finishes, Abu Abdullah manages to take the water in his hand, but before drinking, one of the enemies say, oh Hussein, will you drink while your women are being attacked? Aziz, and you know what happened? Imam al-Hussein rushes back to the camp. He finds that this was just a scar. Why? This was just a scare. Why? Because they didn't want him to drink from the cool water of the Euphrates. Aziz, and this is what they were treating. And this is how they treated Abu Abdullah. It is said at that point, there's a second farewell. At that point, Azizan did a second farewell in Karbala. In Karbala, Imam al-Hussein starts to greet everyone again. He greets Zainab, he greets all of the women together. But you know, there's a little girl standing separately. And that little girl was known as Sukaina. She was the one that would provide sukoon to the heart of Imam al-Hussein. She would give tranquility and peace to the heart of Abu Abdullah. It is said that in the narration in the Maqtal, it is said that when they go, before they go, she starts to converse with her father. And she says, oh father, don't go. Why, Sukaina? It is because anyone that goes, they do not come back. And Akbar went, he didn't come back. Abbas went, he didn't come back. Aziz and even Ashoora went and he didn't come back. Imagine the heartbreak of Sukaina. It is said at that point Imam al-Hussein starts to put his hand on her head. Why? Because soon she will become an orphan. And so this is the way that Imam al-Hussein tries to comfort Sukaina. At that point, Umar ibn Sa'ad he starts to call out to the enemy. He says, oh people, attack him now for this ferocious lion. If he comes out again, you will not survive. You know, a time comes in Karbala where they start to shoot arrows at the camp of Abu Abdullah. Aziz, and this is Maqtal, not me. I can't bear to say these words. But the Maqtal says that the arrows start piercing the tents, and some even pierce the clothing of the women in Karbala. Imam al-Hussein can't take this. Imam al-Hussein goes out and like a fierce lion, he starts to go and he fights them. He kills one, he kills another. But eventually thirst gets to him. You know, he goes and he asks, he said, oh Shimmer, give me even a little drop of water. The Shimmer says that, oh Hussein, you will go in your thirsty state to the hellfire. Oh Hussein, this is how they talk about the son of Fatima to Zahra. At that point he starts to cry and weep. It is said Abu Abdullah becomes so tired that he starts to get off his horse. He takes rest because there's so many arrows that have landed. Azizan, do you know how he lands on the ground? Do you know they say there's so many arrows inside the body of Abu Abdullah? When he comes off the horse, he's neither in the air nor is he on the ground, but he's on a bed of arrows. It is said Imam al-Hussein takes up and it makes some strength. He starts to gather his strength. He sits down. You know, at that point, it is said that in the Maqtal, when Imam al-Hussein is starting to rest up, it is there's a little young kid known as Muhammad. Muhammad is the grandson of Aqil. It is said by one of the enemies, he said at that point, I saw a young boy come out of the tent scared. He would grab the pole. As he would grab the pole of the tent, he came at once towards us. I would see this handsome boy and he would have some jewels in his ears. Do you know what they say about this young boy? What he done to him? The horse rider says, I came towards him, I leant down and I got my sword and I beheaded him in one strike. Oh Muhammad, this is how they treat your Lord. This is how they treat the son of Fatima to Zahra. A time comes in Karbala where Imam the Jang eventually goes back and he starts to pay attention back to Imam al-Hussein. Azizan, do you know what happens to Imam al-Hussein? One of the enemies of Allah say to him, oh Hussein, look, this is cool water, you will never be able to taste it. They start to make mockery of Hussein. They say, oh Hussein, look, it is said even in the Maqtal, some people even drop water on the floor. Why? So Hussein doesn't even have a drop. One of the enemies of Allah, they advance and they start to abuse him. At that point, his nephew, known as Abdullah, son of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, he starts to come out, he rushes out of the camp. Bibi Zainab tries to hold him down, but Bibi Zainab could not hold him down. It is said at that point, to strike Abu Abdullah. Young Abdullah puts up his hands. As he puts his hands up, they cut the elbow of this young boy. You know where he rests? He rests upon the injured chest of Imam al-Hussein. He's hugging Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein says, oh my nephew, be patient. I know it pains you. But soon you meet your father and your grandfather, and they will quench your thirst. Oh, Mazloom. It is said that at that point the boy is still alive. Aziza, do you want to know how he died? It said Hurmullah. He takes out a 3-point arrow. He takes it and he shoots it at this boy. It is said at that point this boy's head does not remain with his body. Aziza, and this is the state of Abu Abdullah. They kill his young ones on his chest. It is said at that point everyone starts to intensify the war. As they intensify, as someone comes and they strike the shoulder of Abu Abdullah, another person comes and he strikes the lips of Abu Abdullah. And these are the same lips that were kissed by Rasulullah. Another person comes close to him. He starts to take the mockery out of him. He starts to laugh at him. He takes his arrow and the narration say he shoots it directly in the neck. I ask you, an already thirsty man, imagine how thirsty he must be after the throat pierces him from one ear to another ear. Imam al-Hussein is then shot by Hurmala in his chest. At that point, Imam al-Hussein breaks the arrow. He starts to see the blood is gushing out. As he gushes out, he holds the blood inside his hands. As he holds it, he starts to feel his beard. He feels his face. As he feels his hair. It is said at that point the blood becomes so much that the imama is so full he has to remove it. At that point he takes his scarf. He removes the scarf and he puts it around his head. But it doesn't stop the blood, Azizan. At that point it is said Abu Abdullah starts to breathe his last. Abu Abdullah is on his last legs. One of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, and they come forward and they say about Abu Abdullah, and they say, oh Abu Abdullah, you will never drink from the cool river of Euphrates or anywhere on the earth. Imam al-Hussein does dua. He says, oh enemy of Allah, I pray that you will die thirsty, may you never ever be able to eat with your right hand. At that point this narrator says that he became paralyzed and he died of thirst, for he will never be quenched despite however much he drank. Aziza, the time comes in Karbala where even Umar ibn Sa'd starts to see the horse of Imam al-Hussein. At that point he calls out, he says, oh people, gather the horse, for this is one of the horses of the Holy Prophet. At that point Zuljanah starts to do jang. Zuljanah fights. He kills many of their horses and their horsemen. And so eventually they leave him alone. It is said at that point he starts to come to Abu Abdullah. He starts to look at Abu Abdullah. He sees Abu Abdullah full of blood. Imagine this is his horse. You know what he does? He takes his head. He starts to rub it on the blood of Abu Abdullah. And he lays very loudly. You know what they say? Someone asked Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and they say, what is it that happened? And what is it that this horse was named about in Karbala? He says that the horse was saying, woe be on you, O nation that kills the own son of the daughter of Rasulullah. He couldn't take it. At that point, Zuljanah, he rushes towards the camp. At that point, you see when he rushes to the camp, he goes straight to Sukaila and Zainab who greet him. At that point, the woman are heard saying, Wa Muhammadah, Wa Jafara, Wa Aliya, Wa Hamza. They say, Oh Muhammad, Oh Ali, Oh Jafar, Oh Hamza, your son, look at him in Karbala. It is said at that point, Bibi Zainab starts to look for high ground. When she looks for high ground, she finds still there's a Nabiya. And she finds this high ground. When she looks, she sees that everyone is surrounding Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah is all alone. Aziz, and do you know what she says? She could see Umar because he seems to be a bit closer. She gives the words and she shouts. She says, "Oh Umar ibn Saad, are you going to stand and watch them while they kill the son of Fatima al-Zahra? Oh Umar ibn Saad, will you stand there while they behead Abu Abdullah?" Azizan, this is the time where Abu Abdullah is all alone in Karbala. You know, at that point it is said that they start to advance. Those that have javelins attack Abu Abdullah with javelins. Those that had nothing, they picked up the stones in Karbala and they would throw stones at Abu Abdullah. Aziz, and Abu Abdullah is so alone. It is said those that don't have anything, even stones, they throw dust on Abu Abdullah. Oh Abu Abdullah, a time comes where the enemies start to say, and Umar ibn Saad says, advance towards him. As they advance towards him, none of them can come forward to do the final deed. No. Azizan, a time comes in Karbala where the most la'een of them all, Shimr bin Zal-Jawshan, he comes forward, he kicks Abu Abdullah, and he sits ala Sadr al-Hussein. Azizan, at that point, you very famously know that Abu Abdullah's very last moments are there. Assalamu ala al-Hussein wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussein wa ala awlad al-Hussein wa ala ashab al-Hussein. Allahumma la'an qatlat al-Hussein alayhi salam. صلوا على محمد